You want to make more money, but are you keeping it? That's the $1 million question. Whether you're worth $1 million, 10 million, 100 million, or more, what are you doing to protect your wealth? I am super excited to have Mark Miller on today's episode sharing with you strategies of the ultra wealthy. Now, regardless of how much you have now, I'm sure you want to protect it more and learn better ways that the stuff you do this year, next year, and beyond doesn't just go thrown out the door. What are your dreams? What are your goals, your hobbies? What about your family? What legacy are you leaving for the wealth for them? We're going to jump into that right after we thank our sponsor with Mark Miller. Here he is, ladies and gentlemen, Mark Miller. Mark, how are you feeling today?
I'm doing great. How are you?
I'm doing even better now because I know you're going to be sharing some fire strategies with us to protect our wealth even more from everything we work hard for as entrepreneurs.
Absolutely. I'd love to.
Why is it important not just to make more money, but to protect it?
Well, what's kind of funny about it is that most people kind of view the ultra wealthy as all these people that are taking all this massive amount of risk and they're investing in all these companies and they can lose it any day and all of that type of thing. But the ultra wealthy actually focus on risk a lot more than the average investor does. And whereas a guy like Warren Buffett, most people think, okay, Berkshire Hathaway, equities, things of that nature. But 50, 60, even 70%, up to 70% of this portfolio is very safe and secure at any given time. And the ultra wealthy are only taking maybe 20, 30, 40% of their money and actually putting it at risk. Now, ironically, that portion, though, can make them a lot of money and makes them a lot richer, combined with other things. But safety and security are the utmost important to the ultra wealthy because they have a lot to lose if they don't do or don't make the proper decisions. Could ruin their fortune.
Why do you think they take so many risks, like you're saying? Some people might have one business, stick with it their whole life. Maybe they spin off and start another one. But from what I know, and I'm not a tax wealth finance anything, I own a publishing company, but um, why do you think they build out portfolios of companies and go into multiple industries?
So again, most of their money will be very safe and secure, but that money that they're putting at risk, they are very well allocated into various other types of investments. It's not generally one company like you were talking about, because again, even with that at risk portion, they're like, well, what if things don't go right? If they take all of that money and putting it in, say, two opportunities, and one of them loses, then that 30 or 40% that they've set aside can be cut in half. Okay. So they're still going to be very well allocated and diversified, even with those at-risk assets.
Is there any secret formula like don't invest more than 10%, 15? How do you determine 5, 10, 20, 30, 40% of the threshold? Because
Yeah.
10% of 100 million is still more than 40% of 5 million.
Yes, absolutely. Everyone is different, and it depends on what their risk tolerance is. You've heard these things before, but it really is true because it depends on those individual investors' values, how conservative they want to be to design a portfolio. Like what we do with our folks is in the Hilton True Wealth portfolios. So we go through a whole process with them just to make sure how much do we want to put at risk. And So one of the things that Brad Hilton, who was the grandson of Conrad Hilton, is my main partner. And Brad and I's passion were how are we going to teach these kind of high-end, ultra mega wealthy strategies more to the average investor, say somebody that's got 250,000, a million, 2 million, whatever. How are we going to teach those strategies? Well, basically, we came up with more of a retail type of strategy. We're more kind of on the smart money wholesale side, but you may have heard of the bucket concepts, where you take certain portions of your assets and you put it in different buckets that are trying to accomplish different things in your portfolio. So, like, there's a very safe, secure bucket, there's like an income bucket, maybe a more of a managed money type, a little bit of an at-risk bucket, and then there's that bucket where you're taking a lot of risk, like private equity alternatives. And everyone is different how they want to what they want percentage wise in each one of those buckets. If you took an average generic portfolio, maybe in those first two buckets, in the income bucket and guaranteed bucket, maybe there's maybe 50 to 60% of your portfolio. Then in that third bucket, which is the managed money bucket, maybe 20 to 30%. And then in that final bucket, maybe only 10% of your portfolio. That might be very generic, but again, everybody is different. Some people, if you're dealing with someone that that has done a lot of at-risk investing over the years and is what's called an accredited investor and really understands investing, they may put more of a percentage of their assets in, say, that fourth bucket, maybe 15 or maybe even 20%. But they're comfortable with that and they're willing to take a little more risk, albeit still diversified in those areas. So if something does go wrong, it won't massively affect their portfolio.
Great insight. Great insight. For anyone who doesn't know, what is the definition of a accredited investor per SEC as of today?
So generally, in general, it's someone that has a million or more of investable assets, okay, outside their home, or they make anywhere from 200, 300, 400,000, depending on if it's joint or single income also. But they've had enough experience to amass enough wealth to where they can make pretty good decisions around money and kind of know what they're getting into. And that's what the government will call what's called an accredited investor.
And isn't it true that there's certain investments that are only available to accredited investors versus John Q. Public?
Absolutely. That's a great question. And as an example, we literally just in the last few weeks launched the Hilton Technology Fund, and it is only available to accredited investors. So it's going to be available to sophisticated investors that have invested enough to know how to evaluate and do the due diligence they need to do to invest in a fund like that.
Would you say venture capital is a better way to go or invest in businesses if you do have the time and money?
It really depends. It depends on someone's risk tolerance and what they're used to. I mean, we have investors that come to us that have done a lot of venture capital investing in different private equity funds, and they're used to that, or private equity offerings or companies. I wouldn't say venture capital is something you should go to immediately if you've never invested a whole lot in that fourth bucket that I was talking about, private equity firms or alternative types of offering.
Would you still consider real estate a good investment as it's been over the last 100 years, or would you say more technology and AI and where the future's going is going to be the next big boom?
Well, let me just give you a little color on that. It's a great question. Real estate is always going to be a great investment if you know what you're doing, how to invest. There's so many different areas that you can invest in real estate, and we deal with a lot of clients that have made fortunes in real estate. I
Hilton's
do
doing pretty
believe,
good, huh?
what's that?
Hilton's doing pretty good, huh?
Oh, absolutely. The Hiltons have done great in real estate over the decades, for a long, long time. But I will tell you that we more and more have started to kind of get into and really understand because of the partners we have, the relationships, we really understand the new economy and what's going to happen in the 21st century. You'll see it a lot. What's happening in the new administration, and I'm not want don't want to talk politics, whether you like Trump or not. The new administration is really trying to embrace kind of the changes that are happening and bring the economy, the world economy into the 21st century. Because we believe that we've been stuck in kind of the 20th century, the early 20th century for a long time now, when we're in the information revolution, we have digital assets, we have AI, we have robotics, we have all of these things. I'm just going to tell you, we believe, and especially Brad Hilton, who is kind of a futurist and great in the technology space, believes that we're perhaps in the greatest time to invest, not just in recent history, but world history. Um, because of all the breakthroughs, especially in AI, because AI is advancing every single industry right now at a breathtaking speed. And if people don't invest in these areas, we have other family offices that are coming to us because they don't know how to get into this space properly because there is a lot of tech involved and people are kind of, their eyes glaze over, what's the proper area to go into? Should we go into robotics? Should we be more into AI? Should we be in biosciences now? Now we kind of tend to think all of the above. Should we be in digital assets? So there's a lot of complexity to it. But if you know what you're doing, this can really be and we believe, the greatest time to invest really in world history.
I may have asked the question, but that was a fantastic answer.
Yes.
Um, what do you think keeps people from investing and expanding into these areas?
Well, number one is they're don't know a lot about because all these spaces, even though we've heard about them, we've known about them for a while, like bioscience is a great example. But bioscience with AI on top of it, it's a whole different world because people have known about bioscience for, decades. Yeah. These pharmaceutical companies, things like that are investing in different areas. But with AI now attached, instead of one company out coming out and having an advisory board with two or three PhDs on it or medical professionals, they now can have 100 or 150 because of the layering of AI. So that's why I was also saying earlier that we believe AI is going to advance practically every industry because now it's going to give the possibility for all those different companies to go outside the corporate walls to get even more expertise to expand and grow their companies.
It's an exciting time, and
It
I
is.
mean, I look back 5, 10 years and go, wow, we've advanced so much. And you look back 20 and go, wow, the world's completely different. But just with everything that's happening in all of these industries, the trajectory we're on for the next 5 or 10 years. I mean, do you ever think about that and go, we probably can't even comprehend what's coming, and we'll look back at this and go, why were we going so slow?
Yeah, and I think about it a lot. Well, my partner Brad thinks about it like he practically dreams about these things because he's a futurist. So the cool thing about right now is that and it's not an exaggeration to say the next 300 or 400 years is going to be really created, and the genesis is going to be built probably in the next 20 years. Okay.
Wow.
And the majority of all of us are still going to be around that are listening today are still going to be around in 20 years. And so to be able to plug in and take advantage, I mean, that's one of the reasons why, Brad came to us, all the partners, about 2 years ago and said, we have to build a tech fund because we have all of these incredible partnerships and all of that combined, people need to have access to these things to be able to truly take advantage, massive advantage in a very short period of time. Because if people just kind of sit around and aren't investing properly in these spaces during this period of time, we're going to miss the opportunity. And that's kind of one of the reasons why we put the tech fund out. I mean, we do a lot of other things, but Brad especially is very excited about the tech fund because it really is going to be kind of the cutting edge investments that are going to be able to be made in the future for the future.
So with all the planning you're doing on for the future, what would you say someone could be doing now to take advantage of that even in 6 or 12 months?
So I think you need to be looking at expanding the mindset of kind of just the regular retail investor mindset by looking at the stock market, individual stocks. Now, obviously, we see the main stocks that are driving the stock market are probably about 70 to 75% of the profits in the stock market. And what are those companies investing in? They're investing in all of these new cutting edge opportunities, like a company like NVIDIA or Meta, that are expanding out beyond what their core companies are to envelop all of these just really exciting future technologies. One of the big things that we think and where we've had a big emphasis on is the blockchain. And for those of your listeners that don't understand and know what that is, basically
Yeah, what is the blockchain?
the blockchain is basically putting all things related to not just money, but even digital assets, all of that, kind of digitizing it and putting it in kind of the information revolution type of form, as opposed to. So let me give you a great example. So obviously, digital assets, which are like the cryptocurrencies, Bitcoin, things that you hear about that, like that, are kind of the newer form of money. Whereas the old form of money is like paper money, fiat currency. Blockchain, the only thing that allows that to happen, Bitcoin is basically built on the digital blockchain and those digital platforms to be able to exist. So we believe that the world, and frankly, the United States, is trying to lead this, just like we led the kind of Silicon Valley, the kind of information and the computer world, that trying to position ourselves to be at the forefront of that digital revolution, that blockchain revolution, to where almost every asset is going to eventually be digitized and be in that space. So, and we're on the cutting edge. We're at the very beginning of that, and it's a very exciting time to be kind of in the world that we're in right now. Just every call that we have, we just came off of a call where we are all just excited about what's happening in those different spaces that are really going to shape the future economies.
Yeah, because it's going to be easier to track the finances, isn't it? And from some of the stuff I've read, it's like if you put something in intellectual property as well, you can track it because everything goes back to the blockchain.
Absolutely. IP stuff, intellectual property is a great example about, eventually everyone's intellectual property of any type is going to be digitized and maybe even tokenized to be able to, people can, so the average investor can invest in high-end intellectual property that they could have no ability. That's one of the reasons why Brad and I created Hilton Tax and Wealth Advisors as a spinoff from the Hilton family office, is because we knew all of these things were going to be coming down market, where there's still a tremendous amount of money, but normally people don't have access and they can't. For instance, real world assets. So the average investor, even that has 500,000, a million, doesn't have the ability often to say invest in a high-rise condo complex in Miami, so to speak. It's usually more on the private equity side, on the smart money side. Well, by taking that property and digitizing it, tokenizing it in a
Hmm.
sense, then the average investor that only could invest at 100 or 1,000 or 5,000 at a time could have a piece of that Miami Beach condo complex.
Like a
Uh,
portion of the share.
Yes, absolutely. So that's another exciting area. So we believe very strongly, and I just, I'm more of a traditional finance kind of guy. But the more I've learned over the last 4 or 5 years and being exposed to all the partners that we have, some of the top people in the space, the more I'm 110% convinced that the world is going to be moving to where everything is going to be on the blockchain and everything is going to be digitized, only because, again, it's just a matter of course. It's going to take time and the systems are going to have to be built. But where the average investor can be invested in the most, high-tech, complex things that they would not have any access and be able to have done, say, even now to a certain extent, but say 10 years ago. Now they're going to have access to those same types of things that the wealthiest of the wealthy are going to be able to invest in.
Well, I appreciate you for sharing that with us. We're talking about different ways to see stuff down the road and protect your money now. You've mentioned family office a few times, and for anyone not listening, I'm I think they're fantastic. But what is a family office?
So a family office, let me give you a little history. So the Rockefellers had the first initial family office, and basically it was John D. Rockefeller. It was like they had all their assets spread all over the place, and they had all these different advisors. They were all fighting about over the assets, and it was keeping them from really using their money and their wealth efficiently. So he came up with the concept, why don't we hire all these advisors to come in, make an actual physical office. Our family office is what's called a virtual family office, and I'll talk about that in a second. And then bring all those people in house, and all the advisors can be talking together about how can we efficiently invest the Rockefeller assets and not have all this infighting, all that. Well, they doubled their wealth in 5 years from that concept. And then it caught on. A lot of very wealthy families, those are called single family offices, would build these offices, and they were just much more efficient, cost effective. And that way they'd have boards that they would put together where they were very efficient with their money. Then over the years, it developed into a multifamily office where other wealthy families would come in. And then in the information revolution, which started basically in the 90s, we started to move into virtual family offices, which our office, the Hilton Family Office, is basically we have best of class people from all over the world that get together. We're obviously can be virtual now, which is phenomenal. And then when our clients come on board with us, they get, again, best of class, top 5 or 10 firms or people or whatever we're working with really in the world in every individual area that you can imagine in somebody's personal finances. So that's the whole concept of the family office is just that everyone gets together, kind of, shares. Now it's a lot more about sharing ideas too. One family or one investor may have a great idea and they'll share it with another, but then also economies of scale to be able to, be able to get services a lot less expensive, have less fees associated with investing, all of that type of thing. So that's generally what a family office is, and everybody's talking to each other. Kind of a lot of synergy, people talking back and forth, and then it's for the benefit of the members of that family office.
You're leveraging what you can do instead of saying, "Well, I got to talk to one person here, and no one knows." One saying do this with your money, the other one saying do the opposite, and they could both be right in their own sense. But when you look at the bigger picture, obviously only one of them is going to be in your best interest.
Yeah, yeah, absolutely. And that's kind of what, again, it goes back to the passion that Brad Hilton and I had was that, and we were like, hey, we've got to figure out a way that we could bring some more of these advanced concepts and even the concept of that synergy in a family office down to folks that are like most retail investors. They have five different advisors. They have somebody, they have an insurance person, they have a tax person, they have a financial advisor, they may have two or three other people, an estate planner, all of that, and none of them are even talking to each other. And guess what? None of them want to talk to each other, just like in the late 1800s when all of those guys didn't want to talk to all those people working with the Rockefellers because they were like, I want the biggest piece of their money. And they were like, I don't want to talk to that guy because he could take it away. I'm going to show the Rockefellers how I can do this. Well, it's still the same, especially on the retail side. So we are basically with Hilton Tax and Wealth Advisors coming and saying, hey, we can bring this same concept to where everything's kind of under one roof. It's more of a holistic type of thing, and then everybody is communicating for the benefit of the investor.
Now, on the flip side of this, uh, why don't we share the story with the Vanderbilts, what they did and what you shouldn't do?
So the Vanderbilts are an interesting story. So the Vanderbilts, and generally you do see this where, and it kind of is true that even with some of the bigger families, that they'll lose their wealth over three generations. Okay. Now, why is that? Is like original, like Cornelius Vanderbilt was the patriarch of the family, and he was a genius. I mean, a one of the greatest businessmen that ever lived. Okay, and the problem is getting that to then go down the generations is very difficult. Usually a first generation that the actual producers, the workers, the ones that built the dynasty can teach them enough. But by the third generation, that education has dissipated so much. Part of it's too because there's so much wealth there too that it generally by third generation will get squandered. And the Vanderbilts were a perfect example of that. That there, it's very difficult for a family to keep that going, and that's why there needs to be really on the front end of. And there's a lot of people right now that are starting legacies and are building big companies, are making a lot of money that they need to take advantage of some of the opportunities in the information revolution to be able to build structures the best way possible in their family office to maintain the wealth over not just those two or three, but maybe four, five, six generations. Put money aside in trust, things like that, so it can't be squandered because that education hasn't stood the test of time down in the generations.
Well, I appreciate you for breaking that down even more than I was familiar with because I knew there's two different outcomes, two prominent families around the turn of the century, and two totally different outcomes because simply how they structured it. So
Yes, absolutely.
I I think a lot of people go, "Oh, I just need to make more money," and that's part of it. Obviously, yes, but if you're not doing the right things with it, it doesn't last, which isn't cool either. So, thank you.
Yes.
Um, let's do the wheel of whatever, and I know what I'm gonna ask you. You want yellow or black?
I will take, I like the color yellow.
Heck yeah, I do too. Yellow, your question is where would you like to race your Porsche that you haven't yet? And it has to
Uh,
be international.
it has to be international. So I'm fortunate I belong to a club that's kind of a mini F1 course. I would love to maybe take that car and put it on one of the F1 course, one of the big F1 courses over in maybe Dubai, maybe in, one of the European countries. Uh,
Monaco?
I would love to do that. That would be a blast.
It would be, wouldn't it?
Yes.
We got to continue that conversation with we didn't even get on F1s, but very cool. We're going to thank our sponsor and come back for the imperfect action round. And we are back with the imperfect action round. Are you ready to take imperfect action, Mark?
Absolutely. Always.
First question is, what is the fastest path to the profits?
The fastest to the wealth process?
The fastest path to the profits.
Oh, to the profits. Oh, I think
Yes.
it's a process. Um, I'm going to say right now, only because we're in the digital asset space, that people really need to understand digital assets, Bitcoin, cryptocurrencies, that whole thing, because I really do believe I think that's the future. And I think that even from we were talking about one of our companies, Hilton Institute of Business, is about building businesses to generate passive income. Well, we believe that you can invest in really, we're still in the early stages of digital assets and build passive income long term. So
Best of
I
both worlds
think
right
that that's a
there.
great path right now.
Number two, what is the biggest problem you see your prospects facing and the fastest way for them to fix it?
I think the biggest problem is a lot of times when people come to us, they are very um, they're invested in a lot riskier way than they expect and that they think. And again, that's a little bit of a problem of investing on the retail side, where 70% of their assets will be in the stock market. And the fastest way to remedy that is just with a good, well allocated portfolio, again, that focus on safety and security, like the wealthy do, first and foremost, and then returns second.
Number three, what's the best way to maximize customer lifetime value?
Um, just doing great, giving great customer service to folks, getting back with them within a very short period of time. Um, we believe what we do, and the Hiltons have always believed this is just under promising and over delivering, massively over delivering, and then you'll never lose a client.
Love that. What books would you recommend to Expert Authority World?
Um, hey, I always go back to some of the basics. I go back to Think and Grow Rich by Napoleon Hill. That is just so much wisdom in that book. I probably read that book, every 5 years or so. And every time I pick up something new. How to Influence and Influence People, Dale Carnegie, which is phenomenal. I'm old school, you can tell. And the E-Myth books are great for building a business. So some of the older books, some of the new books, I like some of the new books. I mean, a lot of, what I read now because I'm very much into health, longevity, those type of things. And the books that are coming out that kind of trend about having great routines and great habits and all of that. The wealthiest of the wealthy, I'll just tell you right now, all have phenomenal routines and they do the same things every day to keep themselves healthy, wealthy. I guess I'll throw
And
in
wise?
wise there too. Throw in wise, right?
No, but I agree. It's not even everyone's looking for a secret, and some of this stuff has been repeated so much. It's
Yes.
not really the secret. If anything, the secret is you have to do it. But that's not a secret because everyone knows that too.
Right, right. If you look at, there's about 3,000 billionaires in the world. And if you look at every single, like, I think they did a study on this. The High Performance Institute did this. About 70 to 80% of those 3,000 people are up at 4:30 to 5 in the morning. Okay. Now think about that. Why is that? Is because the days are not long enough for them to accomplish everything they need to accomplish. So they utilize from sun up practically to sundown. Whereas kind of the average person, maybe they'll roll out of bed at, 7 o'clock, something like that. They'll get to work and get going about 9. Maybe they'll work to 3 or 4. The wealthiest of the wealthy don't do that. And all the people I work with too have these incredible habits, incredible rituals that they do routinely, which includes being up very early in the morning to make their day as productive as possible.
Great insight. I appreciate that. Where would you like people to learn more?
So they can go to our website, hiltonwealth.com. That's hiltonwealth.com. We have information on our family office there. They can get a complimentary book that we have called Hilton Wealth, How to Invest Like an American Dynasty. And we'd be happy to educate, and help anybody we possibly could.
Well, thank you for your time, Mark, and sharing your expert authority effect insights.
Well, thank you, Mario. I appreciate it. Have a great day.
All right, Expert Authority World, we have another great episode here today. I'll see you on the